Thank you for joining us today on the Eastern Maine Sports Media Podcast. I want to tell you what's coming up first. Check out all of our podcasts. They can be seen here on YouTube, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. And they also can be heard anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere, Odyssey, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find them. We've got a busy time coming up. The high school soccer and field hockey playoffs are starting soon. The high school football 8-man playoffs start this weekend. So busy time. Just keep checking our schedule, and we'll have that for you. And we'll have a lot of games coming up. But tonight, I got a special guest, Mike Antonellis, the former broadcast man for the Portland Sea Dogs, and now with the Worcester Red Sox. So he knows the Red Sox organization pretty well, and going to talk a little bit about that. And first of all, thank you for joining me tonight, Mike.
I appreciate it, Mark. Nice background. You've got the smiley ball Woo Sox logo. So, yeah, no, it's good. It's crazy to think I've been away from Maine for 5 years now. So it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah, and first, I guess just first, we'll go backwards and talk about your time at Portland and kind of what that meant to you, and just your time there.
Yeah, it means a lot. I've always said that's probably going to be the best gig. I mean, even though I'm working at AAA and it's a brand new stadium, and I've had some really good opportunities to do some other things, but the fact is, the 15 years there, I worked for the best owners in sports, maybe best owners in any business, the Burks, who did recently sell. And the people I met, I'm still really good friends with them. That whole Sea Dogs community is really one. You hear all those cliches, but to the front office, to the players, to the city owners, game day people, interns, it was great. Best time of my life. And, I've had time to kind of reflect on it now. When you're in it for so long, you don't really get a chance, but yeah, no, it's great. It still was a good move for me to do what I did. But I'll never forget that time there.
Yeah, now as you said, you're at AAA, brand new stadium, a stadium I haven't been to yet,
Yeah.
But look forward to that. Just talk about the stadium and being at Worcester.
Yeah, no, I've always wanted to begin somewhere from the start. I actually, believe it or not, in 1998 or 99, when I was in Potomac, we opened the Myrtle Beach Stadium. I was the first visiting broadcaster there, and I said, man, that'd be cool to start, and I've seen other teams with new ballparks. And I'm from this area originally. I live in Grafton now. I grew up in Ashland, which is close. I'm close to my parents now and my sister. So all of that certainly has benefited in such a positive way. But I say it's a mini big league ballpark without the attendance. I mean, it's really incredible. The things they've done, what the city has become. They're building apartment complexes now in right field and then behind us. And everywhere I go, I see Woo Sox hats and shirts. Everyone knows the team, and it's been great. Worcester was people made fun of Worcester a lot when I grew up here. It's a rough area, but it's completely flipped, and it's changed the community, Mark. And we have big league owners, Larry Lucchino and Dr. Charles Steinberg. I mean, but they did an unbelievable job, and I still to this day, 3 years. Next year will be my fourth. When I go in there, it's still you still get excited and you're in awe of it, believe it or not, after all these times.
That's great. And I'm just talking about this past season at Worcester. I mean, obviously, the goal for these guys is to get to the next level. And, many of them did,
Yeah.
played roles on the major league team this year. And I think it will be big parts of the future, either with the Red Sox or trading to get other key players. So talk about some of the season.
Yeah, the season's interesting. I like to look back, like probably around game 100 or even 110, and look at who was there at the beginning. And, we had weird names like Greg Allen, who ended up going to the Yankees. It's almost in chapters where you have, especially at AAA, because you have guys that have opt-outs the beginning of May. So you have like Jorge Alfaro and Greg Allen's, big league guys. And then it goes away. Some of those guys will leave. They get DFA'd. And, then it's a lot of the young guys. And then the final chapter was really what happens in AAA, and it's predicated on what happens in the big leagues. And with the big league team struggling, they took a lot of guys from us, which we were happy about. I always loved Wilyer Abreu from the time I saw him last year, just his approach, and thought that would play in the big leagues. And, of course, Rafaela, the young guys, I think, made a a real good impression. We had so many pitchers come through that, they really, they signed a lot of guys. That's kind of what everyone's doing too, because it's hard to get arms now. And we saw a lot of the guys from AA come up, like Brian Van Bell, um, Mosqueda, Chris Murphy, who was, developing. And then the trade guys for Kike Hernandez, you have all of that, but it was a fun year. I mean, the team, record wise, 79-68, almost had a playoff spot. They were fun to watch, and I know they love playing in Worcester.
The two guys you mentioned, talk about what you think their impact will be in the big leagues. Abreu and Rafaela. Both impressed me when they were up in Boston.
Yeah.
I think they both have a bright future.
I mean, I think that Abreu can be Verdugo. I really do. I think that's a duplicate player. So, is there more upside for Abreu? I think so, because I think he is better defensively. He can play all three outfield spots at a high level, which is hard to do. His arm is incredible. He's much more disciplined. And I think you saw with your own eyes that big moment did not bother him. That's what I always look at. You can tell that he was not phased one bit being in the big leagues. And you could say it's the end of the year all you want, still big league pitching. It's still hard. I think he is a perfect spot to play left or right. I don't think Ceddanne Rafaela should play anywhere than center. I get that there's an open spot at second base. He's probably one of the best I've ever seen out there. And he's 22. And I get some of his swing decisions was something they were working at, but he's 22 years old. And he was not happy being held back this year in Portland. He struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year in AA. And then once he got called up, I almost felt like it was his mission to kind of rub it in. And this is good. We talked to our manager about this. You want players to do this. I mean, he had 14 home runs in AAA in less than 50 games. And he was motivated, and then he got to the big league. So, you like that. You want to see how guys handle a little adversity, but I really think those two are cornerstones for me for a long time, and that's going to be a hell of a trade that they made with the Astros.
Yeah, no doubt. And another player I want to mention wasn't really there a lot this year, but he has been there, is Brian Bayo. I think he has the capability of being an ace, but I think the 2024 Red Sox would be better if they got other pitchers and he was like a number 3, because that would probably mean they're contending and because they've got other top-notch pitchers. But I think Ace is in his future, don't you?
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. There's like 6 broadcasters with the Woo Sox because we do TV every night and we have sideline reporters. So we all get together and eat before games, and we have like these powwows and we talk about this. In my time, and I'm the older one of the group, I haven't seen many homegrown pitchers in since 05. There's only been a few. The Dodgers had 9, I counted, between 2-3 different regimes. It's so hard now to trade for pitching because of the formats and the commodity. What they're holding teams hostage for is insane. There was that report that Alex Verdugo was going to cost you Clark Schmidt, who's probably a 4. That's a big league 25-man roster outfielder, fringe all-star for a 4th starter. It's not prospects anymore that they want. I had a scout tell me that Brian Bayo was what teams were asking for, because you had no leverage. You had 3 starters. So you need to have, you see, like, to your point, how he can change your whole rotation. And he did. I thought he did. When he came through the first day, he pitched and struck out 10. It was like it was him, Alek Manoah, and Bybee for Cleveland. In my 3 years, have been the 3 best starters. And in AAA, you could go months without seeing anyone. It's so hard now, but they got to find a way, though, Mark, to figure that out. You can't have 2 or 3 homegrown pitchers over a course of 18 to 20 years. It's not going to work going forward.
Yeah. What was John Lester, the last one?
Is he Lester, Buckholz, and I think Bayo? I mean, that's 3 since 05. Papelbon counts a little bit, but he was a reliever.
Yeah. Another player I want to talk about who really never got it going and has never got it going in the big leagues, but he certainly got it going in AAA. And obviously there's a difference in pitching between AAA and big leagues, but Bobby Dalbec, he lit it up down there. And obviously there was, after the way Casas was playing, he's the first baseman for the Red Sox. There's really not a spot for Bobby Dalbec. You think there's any trade value there?
I don't know. I go back and forth, and I love Bobby to death too. I mean, I have a personal relationship from when the time in Portland, so I really root for him. I think there's value at his position at third that he didn't play a lot because of Devers, and even in Worcester they had him more at first than in the outfield. He did a really good job, but I think third base there are not many good ones in baseball. So yeah, I think if someone, we saw a few years ago when the Red Sox had nobody to play third, they kind of got, suckered into that Sandoval deal. They had no leverage. They had no third baseman. And you don't want to get into that. And I think, I don't want to say selfishly, but the Red Sox probably needed to keep Bobby in case, if Devers did get hurt when they were going for it there and in the playoff spot, what would have been the plan? Turner, maybe. But the defense of Bobby's really good. I'll tell you what, times have changed. When guys play that long in the big leagues and have to go back to AAA, it can go sour, and it went the opposite to him. And he really went on a mission. And he had a home run that our computer said went 515 at Polar Park. There's some that don't believe it, but he was fun to watch.
And honestly, defensively, he might be the best third baseman in the organization.
Yeah.
I mean, Devers has his ups and downs, but I mean, Bobby Dalbec might be the best defensive third baseman in the organization. Want to take it over next. Obviously a tough season for the Red Sox, and the last day of the season probably was the worst of them all when we lost Tim Wakefield. You met him, you knew him a little bit. Can you just talk about when you met him and what he was like?
Yeah, so last year, at the end of the year, I was very fortunate that WEEI let me do the pre and post for 3-4 days, and I got to spend one day at Fenway with Joe and Rob Bradford, and Tim came in after, and he didn't know who I was because I was a fill-in, and he was really nice right away and said hi, congrats, and that's first and only time I met him, but terrific guy. What a great story. He got in the minor leagues. I think his first stop with the Pirates was Watertown, New York. He thinks he's going to get to the big leagues as a first baseman, and then somebody had the idea that you can't hit. Happened to Kenley Jansen too. I don't know if he resisted the change. I don't think so. I mean, if you get to the big leagues, you can, and then his career is pretty remarkable, but really horrible because none of us knew, and his wife's not doing well either, and it's just horrible. But what a great guy, and I know Will Middlebrooks too. I know he's really heartbroken too because Will lost his best friend Ryan Mallett, former Patriot, who drowns this past year too. So it's been a tough year in sports world for good people, not people just because of what they did, but good people off the field.
Very sad, and meant a lot to Red Sox Nation, that's for sure. I want to talk next about the front office. Obviously, that's a take up right now. Chaim Bloom got let go. In my opinion, he did what they wanted him to do, built the farm system, but now it's time they want to go. I think they want to try to win again, and they want to. I think the last two trade deadlines, I don't think they were pleased because they were right in it this trade deadline, and nothing was done really. So, what do you think is the goal here for the ownership?
That's a good question. I mean, this is kind of what they did with Ben Cherington. I thought Ben did an unbelievable job because I was there. Well, I was there for Mike Hazen too, and a lot of these guys. And during Ben's time, just to quickly go back on that, they had a chance, I think, to make some trades, and he resisted. And some of those guys would have been Mookie Betts, would have been Jackie Bradley Jr., would have been a lot of guys that he refused to get rid of that end up being some pretty good players. And Chaim from my last year in Portland in 2019, that might have been the low point in the organization. We had no talent, and it's not a knock on the guys there personally. It's just the facts. We were not a good club. We had no depth. The organization had no players, so they needed to fix that. And if I think sometimes Red Sox fans and people don't look around the room to see what's working. I would get people's opinions if spending automatically fixed. It doesn't. The Mets
are the Padres and Mets, right?
Yeah, Padres, Mets. Tactfully it can, but you have to be able to have a strong foundation. The Astros in are staring you right in the face every year. I mean, they have what, 4 or 5 homegrown pitchers. They've had 4 or 5 homegrown starters, which is, no one's doing. What Atlanta's done, what Baltimore's done, a lot of, even Toronto, a lot of their core infielders are them. I think that's what they were trying to do. I don't think Heim resisted the spend. I can't think a GM would care. I mean, what would he? It's not his money. And maybe there were expectations that he could do even more. I think he did the best he could. And with the trade deadline, Mark, we don't know. I wish we knew what the offers were, but I have to imagine, and just from talking to some scouts near the deadline and trying to get some intel, they don't like to give up a lot, but some scouts just told me that the offers and asks were insane. If any team knew you had one little hole, they were going to ask for the moon. Quick example: Cleveland traded Adam Savali to the Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay gave up the number 37 prospect in minor league baseball at the time, a slugging first baseman in AAA for a rental. You didn't have that. Comp to that would have been Casas. Would you have parted Casas to get a pitcher? That's a tough call. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. So I think the jury's out. Did they try? I do believe Heim did all he could. I just don't think you had the resources to get anybody. And maybe that's a situation going forward. Maybe ownership says, hey, we don't care. Give up Marcelo Meyer, or Roman Anthony, or whoever to get a starter. So, but I think Heim did a good job. I think he'll get hired too. I don't think he's going to be out long.
Yeah. And, the next person, I mean, I know the Marlins got rid of their person today.
Yeah.
Do you think she's a possibility?
Absolutely. I think having a relationship with Alex Cora helps. And that is kind of, I don't want to say odd, but it is a little out of the box that the manager gets kept. But GMs are a little different now. The old school GM kind of wanted to have more say in that. The new schools don't as much. And she knows Alex from their time with the Dodgers. She worked with the Yankees, and she did a damn good job with the Marlins. The Marlins want to hire a president of baseball she would make her the number 2, and she doesn't want that. She shouldn't. So I don't know if the Red Sox would. I mean, I know Sam Kennedy's part of it, but he's not president of the minor league side. So, or the major league with players. So hopefully, her next gig is running thing. The Mets are looking for a GM. I don't think she'd be interested in that since she wouldn't be the president. But I hope the next person comes in and they're going to come into a good situation, similar to what Dombrowski did. He came into a really good spot. I think every GM that comes in and ends up winning, it's not just the guy before. It can even be 2 to 3 guys before that.
And one more thing, I have to ask this: do you think Ohtani's any possibility?
I do not. I honestly think it's a price to drive up the West Coast. That's just my theory. I don't see why New Balance being in Boston. I mean, he's not going to go there ever. I don't think so. Those agents are smart. If initially it comes out there's only a couple teams competing, this hammers the market completely. I just don't see, it would make an impact. I mean, they like to do that. I mean, it certainly would. It would change things. There's an economic benefit too with Japan where they have to pay for TV rights, I believe. And the Daisuke thing, they made a lot of that money back. I just don't think that's something they need. I'd rather them spend that on pitching because that's at the end of the day. You saw how their offense was able to be one of the best in the game, and they still, were horrible at times.
Yeah, and there's a few good pitchers out there. Top one is from Japan, and
yes.
I think and Aaron Nola is also available.
Oh, so, yeah.
So they got some options there. Now let's skip over to the playoffs. Last I saw we're taping this on Monday early evening, and the Rangers were up game 2. Last I saw 5-2. I don't know what it is now, but and they won game 1. Just talk about that series a little bit. Kind of surprising to me that the Rangers might go up 2-0. But they haven't lost a game in the playoffs. They deserve a lot of credit. They've overcome the bullpen struggles during the season. But Bochy's a big reason for that, huh?
Yeah, that was I know a lot of Giants fans are not happy about that because they chose to go analytics over a guy like that. I think players like a Bruce, C. Bochy and Dusty Baker. I love those guys. They got two studs, Montgomery and Evaldi. That's really helped, but their lineup is really good. I love that third baseman Josh Young and Carter, one of their outfielders, and Corey Seager. I mean, those are two really good teams. The Astros, they've won 7 straight. They've been in the ALCS 7 straight years. But yeah, no, it's great. There's that. I've talked to players. I actually asked a few players recently about the layoff, and they said it's kind of an overdone story. That it's the first two at bats on a long layoff are bad, but after that you should be fine, and you still have to pitch. So it's not fair to take that credit away from the Rangers. It wasn't easy for them at the end of the year to get in. But yeah, it'd be great to see them. I'm really rooting for the Diamondbacks because of Mike Hazen, who I know from his time here, and Torey Lovullo, who was here. And there's a lot of Red Sox influence in Arizona, and that would be great to see them in
Yeah,
the
it
World
would be for
Series.
the Phillies and that home field advantage, though. That's
Yeah.
tough to overcome, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's kind of like a SEC football atmosphere. It seems like there.
Yeah. The Diamondbacks tried to simulate it. They played a simulated game in Arizona when they piped in all the Citizens Bank Park noise. They tried to simulate what that would be. So, but yeah, it's what's great about baseball. You know, someone that I'm 50 and I grew up where I hated the old format. I see people saying back to where the division mattered. I mean, I remember seasons for the Red Sox being over in May. I mean, I think this format's way better. I don't see it as everyone gets a trophy. It's still hard to get in. But
There's
why?
still less teams in the NBA or NHL
Yeah,
or NFL.
yeah. But you got to adjust. I mean, you want to see different teams in it, and it would make the product bad if only two teams in each division got in. You would end up selling off guys, and I didn't like. I like it much better now. You could definitely see the strategy of not trading certain. The Marlins did that actually. They really last year, the year before, they resisted giving up some prospects, and then they made the playoffs this year. It's anyone that's bad, they can flip the switch in 2 years and be in postseason. I mean, it's remarkable. And I never thought Baltimore would be able to do what they did, being that bad. I mean, they completely ripped the wall down, and I didn't think it would work this quickly. But the scary thing is, Mark, they're going to be better. They got more guys waiting in the wings, 3 or 4 position players. It might be better than what they have in the big leagues.
Yeah, and the Rangers lost 100 games not too long ago either. But
Yeah, exactly.
Back to your point about everybody, being it's not everybody gets a trophy, but compete. And the Red Sox didn't even have a good year, and they were in it till mid to late August. So that's keeps the fans involved, and I think it's better too.
Yeah, I think it's a remedy to protect the smaller markets, because they know what will happen. The old way, you could have your best player traded at the deadline, and then, you could form super teams. They don't want to do that. I get it. I think super teams are cool, but I do get it from the standpoint of business and having extra games. And, what Apple spent, they didn't even get a playoff game. They spent $600 million for the rights to Friday Night Baseball, and I don't think they even got a playoff game. So, down the road, maybe those streaming companies get in more involved, and Mark, eventually they'll probably add more. They're going to add 2 more teams, it looks like, to balance the schedule. And I think a lot of the things that they have done have really hit a home run with the clock, with the schedule. I love the schedule. You play everyone. It boosted attendance. And when they add 2 more to have it even every year, 16 and 16, that's going to be fantastic.
It sure is. I want to end this, Mike, with maybe you talking about a few of your great broadcasting moments and maybe your favorite or your best broadcasting moment in your career.
Yeah, that's a good one. I get that question a lot. And I would say, of course, the first one, the first pro broadcast they did in 1997 in Woodbridge, Virginia. I played the Kinston Indians, and I think the score, we lost 10-0. It was like a 5-error game. The 2006 championship in Portland, that final game, that was fantastic. Then I look at 2014, Mookie Betts led off the season on a 3-2 pitch with a home run, and that was almost like a movie that had a lot of, it was like a metaphor of what the season was going to be and what Mookie would be. And that it was weird. That team was one of the best teams in the history of the Sea Dogs. We won that game on opening night in 14. And Henry Owens pitched a rain short no hitter, but I never got to call it because the game went into a delay. And but that was the first game that Mookie played, and we had a no hitter, and just and then he went on, and then probably the first game in Worcester because they had Bob Cousy there, they had David Ortiz. I mean they had the governor, they had it was insane. The celebrities that were there for that, and it was brand new. It was the first game at a new ballpark, and those are the moments that you're nervous and excited. And then probably the others would be the few times that we played at Fenway. The Sea Dogs used to play there for the Futures at Fenway. I mean, that was so about a handful, and a lot of them were Portland moments, of course.
Excellent. It's great having you on, Mike. And
thank you. Anytime.
I know you're busy during the season, but maybe when we get closer to the season, or maybe we can kind of preview the season or something. And,
yeah.
And stuff. But great having you on. I love talking baseball with anybody, and somebody that knows the game as well as you. It's great to do.
Anytime, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Take care. Yeah, that was good, huh?